No, it was here yesterday. I remember showing Shayla the photo of us in London when she was over. It was right here.
Tamara pointed to the left corner.
What kind of frame was it?
Shelby inquired.
Crystal, antique?
None of these frames are expensive. Saint stated, we don't have a lot of antiques on this floor.
Because Zareen sleepwalks.
Shelby stated to the shock of the group.
It was pretty evident from the extra locks on her windows, heavy curtains, bell at her bedroom door, and prescription on her dresser. You should have been concerned if I hadn't noticed that. After all, I'm the one who's going to find your dog.
So much for our cover. Saint scratched his head. Ah, that's what you're doing here. Mom said Tamara had friends over, not some detectives. He said detectives with a sneer. I remember what Shelby said earlier about being underestimated. I would have also doubted her had I not witnessed her in action. Tamara crossed her arms.
Listen, Zane. Shelby's the smartest person in the entire school. She was the one who figured out who had stolen the money from the dance department's fundraiser. The principal didn't even bother with the police. She's that good. Nobody knows that Zareen sleepwalks, but she figured that out simply by being in her room for a couple of minutes.
I looked over at Shelby, who smirked back at Zane, clearly annoyed that she had to prove herself to anybody. Zane laughed. Yeah, okay, call me crazy, but that doesn't really instill a ton of faith in me. Anybody can read a prescription bottle. Congratulations. Shelby ignored Zane's dig.
Do we know if she had an episode last night?
No. Zane put his hands in his pockets. Serene hardly sleepwalks anymore.
I knew it!
Serene's voice boomed as she stomped up the stairs, her curls bouncing with every step.
I knew you were going to find a way to blame me. I didn't do it. But of course, Perfect Tomorrow couldn't be held accountable for losing her own dog. It's not my fault you're jealous of me.
Tamara spit back at her older sister. Don't listen to her, Serene. Zane placed his arm around his twin.
Oh, what a surprise. Zane's taking Zareen's side.
Tamara replied sarcastically. Tamara, Zane scolded his sister. Don't pick on Serene. We're all doing everything we can to find Daisy. And Serene, nobody thinks you did it. Tamara stepped forward so she was only inches away from Serene.
That's not true. I think you did it.
With those words, an eruption of accusations overcame the two sisters as they each tried to blame the other for Daisy's disappearance.
Why would I want my dog to disappear?
Tamara exclaimed as Zane stepped in between his sisters.
Because all you want is attention.
Serene tugged on her brother's arm.
You have to admit that Tamara could have totally taken Daisy last night and given her to a friend so she could have mom and dad fuss over her even more, as if that were humanly possible.
Shelby leaned toward me and said in a low voice,
Well, Watson, we've arrived at a finger-pointing stage of the investigation where everybody thinks they're a detective.
Guys! I tried to get the shouting to stop. Not only was this really uncomfortable, but I also hated watching a family fight. Believe me, I've seen my share of family fighting, and no good could ever come from it. Can we all just calm down, please? Nothing. It was like I was talking to the walls.
Let the professional handle this.
Shelby rolled her eyes as she approached the siblings in an attempt to restore order.
Would it be possible to display some decorum during these proceedings?
Shockingly, that did nothing. Mostly because there wasn't a dictionary handy to decipher whatever Shelby was trying to say. The girls did finally quiet, only because Mrs. Lacey began shouting as she climbed the stairs.
I will not tolerate this behavior in our house. We're all upset Daisy's missing, but that doesn't mean you can blame each other. You wouldn't be this upset if Roxy were missing.
Serene glared at her mother.
Mommy!
Tamara cooed sweetly.
Did you take the photo of us in London? No.
Mrs. Lacey came over to the bureau and searched through the photos. She turned to Serene.
Did you knock over it in your sleep? Why does everybody blame me for everything?
Serene ran into her room and slammed the door shut. Once again, the hallway became a battlefield of yelling and accusations, with the added tension of Mrs. Lacey banging on Serene's door. It was pure chaos. Here I always thought having money would make life easier, but apparently money couldn't cure crazy. Shelby hung her head.
This case is suffering from too many cooks in the kitchen.
The cook! I stated again, not being able to shake my suspicion of the anti-dog chef. Shelby moaned.
As I explained in the kitchen, it wasn't the chef.
I'm just saying. She cut me off.
What did you notice when we entered the kitchen?
What? It was difficult to concentrate with all the noise the Lacey's were making. Shelby was as focused as ever.
When we entered the kitchen, please tell me everything that you had observed.
My mind went back to our rushing into the kitchen. Besides the huge kitchen that looked like it belonged on the cover of some cooking magazine, I saw the little dog barking and Serene trying to control her. Mr. Lacey was yelling at her.
And that's it?
Yeah, what else was there to see?
This was what I had observed. Upon entering the kitchen, I took a sweep of the room. Miss Eugenia was pressed up against the counter with a tissue in her hand. Once Serene picked up Roxy, Miss Eugenia went into a drawer and pulled out an inhaler, which she quickly used and then blew her nose. She's extremely allergic to dogs, which is why they aren't allowed in the kitchen. I also noticed that there was a bag of walnuts on the counter and a dish that was drying that could be used to make brownies. I had once observed Tamara eating a delicious walnut fudge brownie a couple years ago, so that's how I knew what Miss Eugenia baked this morning.
Wait, I stopped her. You remember a brownie that someone who isn't even your friend was eating a couple years ago?
I never forget a good dessert.
Shelby looked wistful as the memory of the brownie no doubt entered her mind.
But I digress. The reason Miss Eugenia couldn't have taken Daisy is twofold. One, Roxy certainly would have barked at her, as we witnessed earlier, and then two, she wouldn't have gotten more than 10 feet without having an allergic reaction.
Oh, maybe being a detective wasn't as easy as I thought. Well, at least we now had one less suspect to worry about. Shelby stepped forward. I could barely hear her over the arguing Lacys, who were only getting louder.
There's a difference between seeing and observing, Watson. You must learn not simply to see, but observe the whole scene that is placed before you. Usually, the answer is right in front of you, if you know how to look.
I was so distracted by a little dog that was making a ton of noise I didn't take in anything else. I vowed that I was going to be more observant. My focus went back to the Lacys as Serene finally opened her door, but only to continue her heated argument with her mother. I couldn't believe some of the things Serene was saying to her mother. If I even raced, my heart stopped. My mother, who I was supposed to meet this afternoon. What time is it? My voice was near a shrill. Shelby casually looked at her watch.
3:22?
I have to be at the Columbia University Medical Center at 4 to meet my mom. She's going to kill me if I'm late. Shelby didn't look concerned.
Well, you should probably move along then.
Move along? I had no idea where I was or how to get anywhere. Mom gave me money for a taxi, but that was from our apartment. I didn't know if I had enough money or enough time. Will a taxi get me there in time? Shelby snorted.
In New York City traffic? Good luck.
My panic wasn't being helped by the Lacys constantly bickering.
Take the 1.
What? Shelby threw her head back in exasperation.
Take the 1 train uptown to 168th Street. You can get it at the 86th Street. The ride should be around 20 minutes. You'll make it in time, but you have to leave now.
I remained frozen.
Gah!
Shelby cried out, which finally quieted everybody down.
Fine, I'll take you. The Lacys are no good to me in this condition anyway.
She turned toward the family.
I'll be back first thing tomorrow to look around the apartment and the building. Try not to move anything until then. I'd also appreciate if you could all calm down and remember everything that has happened since Daisy went on her walk last night. Do we think everybody can handle all that?
Mrs. Lacey's eyes were wide.
What? What's going on?
Sane laughed. She's apparently some detective from school. Shelby ignored Sane and turned her attention toward Tamara.
I think you need to fill everybody in. We have no time for games and hissy fits.
Tamara nodded while Serena and Mrs. Lacey looked absolutely flummoxed.
Come along, Watson,
Shelby said over her shoulder. I obediently followed. I felt foolish that I needed her to escort me, but above all, I felt grateful.